Good morning and welcome everyone. We're here to honor Lana Gayle Fish, one of the most extraordinary, most beloved, most revered members the department has ever seen. On behalf of the department, I'd like to extend a special welcome to Lana's family. I'd like to welcome Lana's husband Jim, Lana's daughters Lisa and Christy. I'd like to welcome Lana's granddaughter, Alexis, whom we all have heard quite a bit about. Lana's very proud of you. In addition, we're pleased to have Lana's sister-in-law, Pat, here, Pat Fish, her grandson, Nathan Fish, and his girlfriend, Emily. I'm really glad you guys were able to make it. Lana was very humble, and I've wondered if the reason she continued to grace us with her presence was that she didn't want us to gather at a retirement celebration to honor her. And I think that's probably more true than anything else, is that she was just humble and would never have wanted much attention brought to her in this way. But it would be an injustice for us not to take the time to honor someone who has been with us and had such an impact. Like the bench we're dedicating today outside in her memory, Lana's role as the human resource director made her the first point of contact in the department for anyone beginning to work here. As a result of that, but also her wisdom, the care that she showed, the compassion that she had, she became trusted. She became indispensable as a confidant to graduate students, to staff, to faculty, and in fact, to 4 successive department chairs. She was a trusted confidant. Lana began working for the department as the clinic coordinator in 1983, working with and alongside Professor Dick McFall, who was the director of clinical training, and we'll say something here in a little bit. In 1988, she became the supervisor of all of the department's administrative support staff, secretaries, as she might have referred to them at the time. She left briefly in 1990 to work outside the university. Never wanted to say who she worked for, but we all knew who it was. Ken Nunn. And then she returned, fortunately, within 2 years to take on the role she had left as the Director of Human Resources for the department. She held that position until her sudden and unexpected passing a year ago this week. As the daughter of a limestone cutter, which I think a number of us knew she was, it seems fitting that Lana's wisdom, her unwavering commitment to our department, her unmatched skill, her unmatched professionalism, her diplomacy, her strength of character, these things made her a bedrock of the department. From the beginning of my own time here in the department in 1999, I quickly recognized how central she was to our operations. Of course, when I became department chair, I recognized how indispensable she was to our department operations. She really had her finger on the pulse of the department's inner workings. She was keyed into staff dynamics, what the staff was doing, what strengths and challenges we faced. The issues that could make us stronger as a team, as a community, occupied her mind and were a point of discussion with those around her. She had this great sense of community that she wanted to build and that she invested in. She, of course, was unassuming but deliberate in her style of communication. Though she didn't work for any of us in the research labs, she had an uncanny knowledge of how things were going with faculty, how things were going in their labs, what was happening in the department. For department chairs, she was a critical source of insight then to the dynamics within the department, things that should be attended to. I relied heavily on her, as many of you did. In fact, the primary reason I was convinced to serve as department chair was that she invited me to her office and she said she'd continue as the director of HR for at least a term if I agreed to serve as chair, and of course I did. Obviously, that meant a lot to me, but it was more important a reflection on her commitment to the continuity in the department, to the well-being of the department, in which she had invested, in which she cared deeply. It was this extraordinary investment that she had in all aspects of the department that made her really, truly unique. Time and time again, when something good would happen, when there was something to celebrate within the department's community, she would be deeply moved with joy and take deep pride in what was happening amongst the faculty, amongst the students, amongst the staff. I think you have all experienced what I experienced, that it would bring her tears of joy, in fact. She would be quite emotional about things that were going well, things that were being celebrated. She really took great pride in each of us. She shared each of our hopes, she shared our joys, and she shared our aspirations. I'd like at this time to introduce Lisa Fish, who will speak on behalf of the family. But before Lisa comes forward, let me say that many of us in the department came to understand and deeply admire the depth and great love that she had for her family. She was very proud of her daughters and what they did, and we heard about it. She was very proud of Alexis, as I said. We offer our deepest condolences for your loss. We understand this is a significant loss for you as a family.
I'm going to try to get through this. First, we would like to thank Bill, Jean Marie, and the entire Psychological and Brain Sciences family for organizing this event. And we would sincerely like to thank all of you for coming today. We can't tell you how much it means to our family. And we'd like to thank those of you who reached out to us after Mom's passing through cards, emails, flowers, and gifts. Each heartfelt message helped us through an extremely difficult time, and your words were a balm to our souls. The beautiful bench couldn't have been a more perfect monument to Mom. Her father was a stone cutter, so the use of limestone is special to us. Also, it couldn't have been placed in a better location. It's right next to a dogwood tree, and with its legend, having been used as a cross for Jesus, was Mom's favorite. She looks so forward each year to the dogwoods blooming in the spring. And it's within hearing distance of the Carillon. Music has always been an important part of Mom's life. She spent 4 years in high school in the band, as did both of her daughters through high school and college. But the most important thing is that it is near to her PBS family whom she adored. Thank you all for making her work life so happy she didn't want to leave. Mom never liked being the center of attention, and she didn't want anyone to make a fuss over her. It was her most fervent wish that no funeral be held. But I can tell you without reservation that she should be so touched and incredibly honored that you've come together today to celebrate her life. Again, what it means to my father, sister, niece, and I can't be put into words. Just know that we are deeply grateful to Bill and to all of you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
We got together today to talk and remember Lana. I'm one of those people who were fortunate enough to get to speak about her today. I think most of you know my name, but if not, my name's Jesse, and this is my Lana story. I just graduated college here in this department in 2005, was working for Tom Busey, taking pictures of bullets like one does. I changed my career path. I didn't decide to go down the school route. I started working in the shop under Doug Brewster and Jerry Frechette. In this process, I met Lana. I could focus on a lot of things about our beloved Lana, how this was shocking, saddening, and just yak. Today, I'm not. That's just not me. So, most HR people I've met are dry, awkward, sometimes not approachable. Jalen, not you. Not you. Not you. Lana was not that. Lana was caring, she was genuine, and her laugh was contagious. That higher pitched cackle is forever embedded in my memory. You couldn't help but laugh. It didn't matter if you actually heard what the joke was or what anybody was saying. You heard her laugh, you laughed. That's pretty impactful. A gauge of one level's relationship can be determined by many things. One telling way is if someone asks about how your kids are doing. Yes, people can ask about your kids, but a lot of them really don't care or give a damn. She did. My son was a happy recipient of several Lana dollars to get something out of the vending machine. She always asked how my son was doing. Showed him a lot about her character and how much she cared about my life. I'm sure she did the same thing to a lot of you out there. Like I mentioned before, I started working here as a part/full-time hack and also working as a prep cook at the Village Deli just to make ends meet, like I had done in college. After several years, I developed some real skills, and Lana was a strong proponent for me to work full-time here. I can't thank her enough. If not, I wouldn't have met a lot of you fine people. So a lot of gratitude towards Lana. As I'm explaining to my partner, Kendra Bunner, 2 nights ago that I was speaking today, which was, I think, the first time she realized I was speaking today, she told me a Lana story. Kendra knew Lana when she was here as a grad student. She said when she got back from her postdoc and started working here again, they talked about how our relationship lasted throughout that process, as most don't, and that she was really happy for her. Lana told her one thing that was kind of surprising to me. Instead of her being happy that I was with her, she told Kendra she was lucky to have me. Me! That's kind of reversed in what I would think, how that would go, and Kendra probably disagrees with that statement. But thank you, Lana. I wanted to keep this short and sweet, but the Lana stories don't stop yet. I got one more I'd like to tell you about. It's called the Lee Deckard story. Bill, it's not what you think. Don't worry, this won't be an HR issue. I hope not. Lee Deckard was 2 building managers ago. 2013-ish is when he departed this premise. Many of you out there may be still scratching your head and wondering, what the hell happened to Lee? Well, that's a TMZ, storytellers, VH1 behind the scenes, possibly a Lisa Fish upcoming novel. Without doing what I typically do and possibly put my foot in my mouth and ramble, I will tell you 2 things. My coworker and I found a police report on a printer with Lee Deckard's name on it. And if you didn't know Lana, she had an very ornery side. The conversations I had with Lana about that whole situation after it was over were absolutely entertaining, priceless, and will be stories I will take to my grave. You were loved by all. We will miss you, Lana Fish.
It's good to see all of you again. A lot of familiar faces. Lana joined the department in 1983. I had just come here on faculty in 1979, and clinical psychology program was in some jeopardy at that point because the United States Public Health Service, or NIMH, was changing its criteria for funding of graduate training programs. And she arrived just on the year that we submitted what was going to be the future of this program. We'd sort of struggled along for the first 3 or 4 years that I was here, but when she came, we were submitting a grant to be a clinical science program, which is the first time that NIMH was accepting those kinds of applications. Lana became a partner in the clinical science program at Indiana University, and it wouldn't have thrived if it hadn't been for Lana. She was the coordinator of the clinic. She was the mother of all the graduate students. She was the mother of the faculty members. She allowed us all to interact in a positive way and ensured that the office ran smoothly, and all that with apparent ease. There was no consternation, no trauma to Lana. She managed to do all this without any kind of apparent effort. She was living in Bedford, and she drove from Bedford to Bloomington every single day and back home again through all kinds of weather and so on. I can't imagine the cost of, of commuting, but she was invested. She changed the climate of the entire clinical program. The students who've gone forward from this program, if you were to talk to them about what they remember most fondly, I think they'd all bring up Lana first. I mean, she made the difference in this program. Now, at that time, it was a dramatic thing to change the focus of the program or the way that we packaged the program. NIMH said that this was the poster child for clinical science training programs in the United States. She helped produce that program. She helped that program run. She helped it run smoothly. If it weren't for Lana, we would have been in deep trouble. She also oversaw the clinic operation, and we had to change the clinic operation to make it consistent with what we were advertising in our grant application. In the past, the clinic was sort of a secondary activity of our graduate program. We wanted to train scientists who not only did research in the laboratory, but thought about the translation of their research to the application. How can we translate this into something that would be useful to human beings? That meant we had to change the way we ran the clinic. Faculty members had to think about, what am I doing in my laboratory or in my research program that I could translate into something useful for human health. So she oversaw the clinic operation. We had a social worker who had been running it, and he retired, and she sort of took on the responsibility of overseeing this clinic instead of replacing the social worker. We were partners through thick and thin, but in 1992, I think it was, that she decided that she was going to go find a better paying job or something. I don't think she was unhappy with us, but anyway, she was encouraged to move to a lawyer's office and found out what that was like and came back. We were so grateful that she came back. She came back on the 17th of June, this very day. I looked it up, and here she was, you know. And we've been fortunate that she was with us to the end. In the remaining years that I was on the faculty and active here, we lost her to the department. I mean, they recognized what a great asset she was, and they stole her from the clinical program, to our dismay. I kept checking in, you want to come back? She was an asset to the department, and as everybody's been saying. But we kept our connection. We'd been partners in the clinic, and now we were partners in the department. After I retired from teaching, I became involved in a national organization, and in 2008 actually, I took over as the executive director of that organization. And I needed to get an office organized. And so I came back and I said, first of all, I asked the department chair if it would be all right if I talked to Lana about helping us. And I hired Lana as my administrative assistant in my role as the national executive director of the Psychological Clinical Science Accreditation System. And she stayed with me in that position from 2009 to 2016. And she was a faithful, I just relied on her to manage the books and the funding and so on, and she was incredible. I don't know what would have happened if we hadn't had that asset. She was just a partner all the way through. Now, toward the end of that, I'd been retired for a while, and I kept asking her when she was going to retire, and she said, well, maybe next year. Well, maybe next year. Well, maybe next year. And it just went on and on and on. And at the end, after I was retired from that position, I started urging her, well, she was talking about gardening and so on, but I'd watch her struggle to walk into the department, her arthritis and so on. But she never complained about that. She'd just say, well, no, and she'd just pass it off. And never lost her sweetness. I never saw her upset, cross, mean, nothing. Always just wonderful. So when she passed, it was a shock to me. She's always been there for all these years. And we will miss her. I will miss her, and I owe her a lot.
Hi, I'm Leanna Fabian, and I work in the front office. Lana hired me. I'm not a speaker, but for Lana, I am today. I first met Lana in 2017 when she interviewed me for the position, and we found out that we were both from Lawrence County. She asked me, she said, are you from Lawrence County? And we quickly made a connection, and we learned that we had a lot in common. And we would spend a lot of time just reminiscing about mutual friends, old places of business in Bedford that are no longer there. I would go and ask her, what was that place? What was the name of that place? And she'd go, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I'm going to ask Jim. And then she'd come back and tell me. Or she would say, I haven't thought about that in years. Oh my God. And we would just talk about that and connect with our roots from Lawrence County. But she offered me the job, and I was thrilled. And she said, just promise me one thing, that you won't leave before 6 months is up. And that was almost 5 years ago. I couldn't leave. She was a bright spot in my day, every day. I just loved coming into the office. I mean, she was just happy, pleasant. But there would be times she'd call me into her office, and she would want to chat with me and just to see how things were going and if I was happy in my position. And she was truly compassionate and kind and made a connection with everybody that she met. She was probably the most encouraging and compassionate boss I ever had, and I loved her for that. Misty Bennett and I had the biggest cheerleader in Lana Fish. She truly cared. One of the things that Misty and I loved was when she would come in, she would shuffle in, drop those blinds, and she'd say, let's go girls, it's time to go. And Misty and I called that the Lana shimmy. She would just shimmy in, and she would just be happy. And we loved that. And then the lockdown came. And everybody was working remotely, and Misty and I were here every day. And it was hard for everybody. But we missed our Lana. And we would say that all the time. Misty would look at me and say, I miss my Lana, and I miss my Lana. And we would talk on the phone, and we would email, and it wasn't the same. And I selfishly missed her. But then I realized that that time was a gift for her family and for her. And I realized that it was a blessing in disguise. So I know that my time that I worked with Lana was a brief time, but it was significant in my life, and she impacted me with her genuine kindness and her concern for people, and she inspired me. And I want to be the kind of person that Lana was, and I'll carry that with me always. I think of her often. So I love and miss my dear friend Lana. And thank you for sharing her with us.
Hi, so I'm Linda Smith, and I joined the department actually before Lana did. I joined the faculty in 1977, but Lana came in 1983, and that made just about my entire career being with Lana. And I certainly loved her before I was chair. I have lots of warm memories of the kind that people are giving. She'd have an office at Christmas time loaded with presents and cookies and candies for everybody under the sun, okay? And she always asked about my children and my grandchildren, and would actually bring them little things she made to take to them when I went. But I really got to know Lana when I became chair. At that point, she became my mentor in a really serious way. She's kind, she's fair, she's just, and she's brilliant, okay? She understood the system of the university. She understood international relations and getting students from around the world here. And she understood, most of all, how people worked. All the matters of running any organization, all the problems, they're people problems, right? It's people. And when I became chair, I consulted on Lana on all sorts of matters. Matters inside the department, but also matters outside the department in dealing with upper echelon, fancy pants type people and how to think about people in general. And she taught me a lot of things. She taught me that the best approach is always honesty. Honesty and respect for the person you're dealing with, whether it's about criticism, praise, disagreements, that you should be honest and respectful without moral judgment in the moment. Treat the person as a person and hear their side. She would tell me always that what we should do is, stick to the facts in these conversations, a statement of what happened, and then listen to the person's response. Listen. Listen. On important matters, she taught me to listen to all, well, she tried to teach me, to listen to all involved before making a decision, and as people who know me will know, that's hard for me to listen first. I'm always eager to just say whatever I'm thinking. Okay, that's one of my problems. But Lana knew better, and she did it better, okay? And under her wing, I got better. Nowhere near perfect, but about the fact that what you got to do is listen before you make any decisions, understand the whole story from everybody's side. So she taught me the golden rule of fairness and kindness to everybody, no matter what. And she taught me about the value of policies. I would sort of fuss, bureaucracy, get in the way of things. But she taught me how policies and clear statements were important, so folks knew what was required, and so that you treated everyone justly, fairly, and honestly. You don't do workarounds, the policies, for some people and not for other people. You would hear so it's right for everybody. All right, so everyone matters and everyone deserves respect. That does not mean, though, Lana was no wimp. That does not mean that you don't have to live with the consequences of your own bad judgments and bad behaviors. She wasn't about making it easy for, making it unfairly easy for people who did things that were mistakes. Lana was firm on that people have to live with the consequences of their own behaviors. But she was kind in her firmness, and kind and respectful to the person, and understanding that one mistake, even though you got to live with the consequences and maybe have to depart the department, is not grounds for not being kind and fair and respectful to that person. So Lana saw and knew the humanity in everyone. She was joyful in their successes at work and their happy family events, and she was sympathetic and understanding in times of trouble. Kind, fair, honest, smart, and respectful. So, in my view, PBS has long been known as a place that worked well. All the time I was here, I had respect from other departments and other universities. And I think Lana, in her long history and in her way of dealing with people, was the core to that. She definitely made me a better person. And I have to say that I kind of wish right now, where we are in this moment in our country, if we had a world of Lanas, a country full of Lanas, we would be a way better place, okay? And I know that when it comes to this bench, that when I need a reminder, listen, don't judge, no moral judgment, okay? Just deal with the facts and do the right thing, that I'll go sit on that bench and try to hear Lana's words.
There are a couple of individuals that want to offer some comments, and if there are even more, we could take a little bit of time to hear other people's reflections. As those who may have comments prepared get ready to come up, I wanted to say that we have a memory book that we would like to give to the family, and Irene Velachos Weber has led our efforts to put this together. Some of you that are here in the department have not yet had a chance to share memories and to sign the book, so we're going to keep it a little bit longer in the main office, and Jean Marie will have it available so that you can add your memories to this. And thank you, Irene, for coordinating this. The other thing I wanted to mention is if you take a look at the program on the back, we've established a endowment. So in addition to establishing the bench in Lana's honor, a number of us felt it important to honor Lana's interest in supporting staff, the care and compassion that we've heard about, and let that live in perpetuity. In order for that to live in perpetuity, we'd like to raise $25,000 this year to establish an account. And so we will begin a more formal way of outreach and acknowledgement of this opportunity in order to try to reach this goal in the coming years. We actually have 5 years to establish the endowment at $25,000. And with that, then, we would be able to use the interest in perpetuity for staff and supporting staff that were so important to Lana. Having said that, let me invite anybody who has any additional comments to the podium.
Hi, I'm Lisa Thomason. I don't have prepared remarks, but I'm so happy to have the opportunity to speak here. I was a psych major as an undergraduate in 1979, and then through a number of mishaps, I ended up not being for a while, but I came back and ended up as a graduate student. And Jim Sherman was on my committee, and I worked in Russ Fazio's lab, and that's when I really got to know Lana, and this was in the late 80s, I believe. Oh, she was so supportive of graduate students, like a mother to us. I would bring back sand from my travels. She loved beaches. She really loved a good beach. And I always enjoyed hearing about her vacations every year, and the time we're so lucky that we got to spend time with her. Thank you for sharing her with us. And then, when I joined the faculty, she was a colleague, and she was amazing. She was so supportive, and there have been so many changes in the department in the course of my career. And she was the stable point on the compass as we went through all the vicissitudes of the changes in this department in faculty. And none of those things would have happened without her steady hand and her guiding influence and her great kindness and support. And at the point that I got promoted to full teaching professor, the first of that rank, at Indiana University, the person that I most missed being there was Lana. I wanted her to be there with me to celebrate that so much, and she would have, because she took such joy in everybody's accomplishment. And she got me through so many hard times as a graduate student, as at the beginning of my career here, and at every step of the way. She couldn't have been more supportive, and she was my sunshine. I've never known a more elegant, beautiful, intelligent, sharp woman of such character, such incredible character. And her kindness. When I go to my office or at home, I look around and there's so many reminders of things she's given me. You know, never missed a birthday, never missed a holiday. And I put those things out at holidays, and I think about Lana, and I think about, she told me about the mermaid and, you know, how she would dress it. And as she would talk about her family with the greatest of pride and love, and how fortunate you were to have her, and how fortunate we all were. The remarks here today have been beautiful, and I really, everything that everybody says resonates with me. But, you know, I have a short list in my mind of people that I admire, that I hope to emulate, that we all learn from, you know, that we look to, and she is one of them on a very, very short list of one of the most honorable people I've ever had the pleasure to know. She was funny, too, and she could go off. And it was, and that was the funniest thing of all. And when she would, when you would, you know, hear some opinions, but always fair, always kind. And I honestly would not have gotten through the last administration without Lana Fish to go in and talk about the latest things that were happening in the political world. I'd bought some things. I should have brought them today for when she retired. She kept saying she was going to retire any minute. And I would be like, oh. And we would talk about it. And she never did. And it's just such a pleasure to have known her. She's made all of our lives so much better, and truly one of the greatest people that I've ever known. It's just been such a pleasure to celebrate her. Thank you.
I wrote 3 paragraphs. I'm going to skip to the third because the first 2 have already been covered quite nicely. The second paragraph was about her laugh. The third one's important, and that's why I went ahead and stood up here today. It's been on my mind a lot lately. And it's that how greatly Lana would like and appreciate our new Director of Human Resources, Jalen Medley. Talk about big shoes to fill. Can you imagine sitting in this room right now hearing about Lana Fish? Jalen has graciously listened to us all talk about Lana a lot, not just today. She's responded with curiosity, understanding, and maturity beyond her years. I do wish Lana could see her legacy of calm competence and wisdom and supportiveness and all the things people have mentioned today being carried forward through Jalen. She'd be so happy to see how we're all managing and thriving and looking for the bright side in each other and in the department. Thanks again, everybody. Glad you all could make it.
One of the things I've been thinking about as I've heard these stories is that somehow, despite the fact that we're a department of more than 65 faculty, somehow, despite the fact that we have more than, 35 staff, somehow, despite the fact that there have been hundreds of graduate students go through the department and feel directly supported by Lana, somehow each of us feels that Lana cared uniquely for us. That's really quite remarkable. And there was a story that was relayed shortly after Lana passed by the family. Lana was in pain, and she needed help at the time that she was stricken. And 2 paramedics came to the house and helped her all the way to the hospital. They stayed in the room with her as other people came in and began to help. Lana noticed, and I had permission from the family to say this, Lana noticed as they began to step aside and to let somebody else take over. Here's someone who needs help. Here's someone who's hurting. And Lana thanked both of them by their names. I think Linda and Leanna said, if we could emulate Lana, if we could have more people like Lana, when we need help, when we feel like attention should be on us, if we can at the same time reciprocate and understand who's helping us, who's there for us, and say thank you. This has been our opportunity to say thank you, Lana, as she gently and slowly steps aside and leaves a legacy for us. So thank you, Lana. Thank you, Lana Gayle Fish, for what you've done for us. It's quite unbelievable that with all her truly outstanding and unique qualities, Lana remained genuine and a humble person, a Hoosier at heart, the daughter of a limestone cutter, a proud resident of Lawrence County in Bedford. And yet her wisdom, her intelligence, her inner strength, like the limestone that supports and surrounds us and that forms the bench that we will remember her by. She upheld the department for many years. It's a legacy, I believe, that will continue to support and uphold us long after she is gone. So thank you all for helping us celebrate Lana today, for helping us remember the character that she had, the compassion that she showed, and the strength that she showed, even when she needed help. So thank you, and we will continue with some refreshments afterwards if you care to stay around and greet the family. Thank you very much.